Thanks to Hostinger for sponsoring this video. I have been waiting for this for a long time. The Apple Silicon Mac is finally here, and I'm even more excited because I've been using it and it's actually really good. But beyond that, if you've seen this channel, you know I love to create an entirely new setup. So what better excuse to do that than having the brand new Mac Mini? So besides the Mac Mini, which I'll talk about in a second, there's a big change to this setup that I actually have never used before, and that's the desk shelf. So this one's from GroveMade. They kindly sent this one out for me to check out, and I'm loving it so far. It lets you kind of maximize the desk real estate because there's only so much flat surface, but if you go vertical, well, there you go, you kind of double it. For me, that main benefit is being able to just clean up and declutter. I'd always have the things I'm working on right next to me on the desk, and it didn't look that great, and it also just made my desk a mess. But now I have a shelf where I can put, the phones that I'm currently using, store them there. I can also, store my trackpad here. This is also where I keep my Thunderbolt 3 dock. This is the CalDigit. I've talked about it before, but this thing is great. So I can just do a one plug to the Mac Mini, and I can use this as kind of my hub to plug things in. But having this shelf means that I can have all of these things, but have them out of the way and tidy. Big recommend here. Now, I mentioned the display a second ago, and I've been using this one for quite some time. I've been looking for a replacement, but I just haven't been able to find one because this one is just so good. It's the BenQ PD272OU, and it's a very high quality Thunderbolt 3 display. So for me, when I'm looking for a new monitor, there's a few things that I really want. I want it to be at least 4K. I want it to be Thunderbolt 3, so I could just use that one cable and plug it in, whether it's a laptop or in this case, the Mac Mini. I also want it to be very color accurate and high quality because I do a lot of this, creating and editing videos. And I also want the actual hardware to be clean and minimal, so it's not too distracting. And there's not that many options that check all of that list. So even though I've talked about this monitor before, I will talk about it again because it is great. It is very high quality. It's very accurate. I've compared it to other monitors like the LG Ultrafine 5K, and even though that is higher resolution, I find the quality to be a little bit better on the BenQ. And really the only other monitor that I would want and replace this with is the Pro Display XDR, but I'm not dropping that kind of money on a display anytime soon. But until I can, this monitor is great. Now I also have that on an arm. Another thing I highly recommend if you've never done it before, it just mounts through the VESA mount, and I can move the monitor to whatever angle and wherever I need to. This is just a cheap arm I got off Amazon. I'll leave it and everything else linked down below. But especially with a computer like the Mac Mini, what display you choose is really going to matter on what experience you ultimately get. One thing I haven't used in my setups for a while is a pair of dedicated speakers, and typically it's not an issue, but with the Mac Mini, yeah, this speaker sucks. So I need something for audio. Now in my last setup, I used just a HomePod, and it actually works pretty well. You use AirPlay connected to your computer, and the audio is great, and it actually doesn't have any lag. It's pretty good. So considering the new HomePod Mini just came out, I decided to use that instead. And this thing has really packed a powerful punch for how small it is. When it was first announced, I was not all that excited about it, but now that I actually have one, I'm impressed with it. The sound quality is much bigger than you would expect. I am a long-time Google Home user. I have one in the bedroom, one in the kitchen, one in the office. But since the HomePod Mini came out, I've actually switched to the HomePod full time. And that's because the sound quality is significantly better than the other systems. And more importantly, at least to me, the HomePod can hear you from across the room in a normal talking voice. With the Google Home system, I would have to repeat myself multiple times almost every single time. Once it heard me, then the answers were pretty great and spot on, but if it can't hear you, then what's the point? With the HomePod, it is incredibly impressive. It could be playing music full blast, you can talk to it in a normal voice, and it will still hear you. That alone makes the HomePod worth it to me, and so far, I have no regrets switching to it. But beyond using it as a smart speaker, it again also works great as just a regular speaker. So I can connect to it via AirPlay and listen to what I'm listening to on my Mac Mini through the HomePod speaker. It's not the best solution, but it works, and I'm pretty happy with it. Okay, so now we get to the Mac Mini itself, and I decided kind of as a test to see how the base model Mac Mini performed. So this has the M1 processor, which is brand new from Apple, and it only has 8 gigs of RAM, although I did upgrade the storage to 512, so I guess it's not technically the base model. But what's great about this is the performance has been excellent. Apple did not disappoint with this chip, and honestly, that's kind of surprising. There was bound to be some major issues, but so far there really haven't. Really, the only problems I've had with the computer aren't with the hardware itself, it's just software compatibility. The developers need to update their apps. But I've also had that issue just on Big Sur on an Intel Mac, so that is to be expected and will probably be ironed out relatively quickly. And for me, I think the Mac Mini has always been one of my favorite computers because it's so small yet so powerful. And you know, with the last generation of Mac Mini that they reintroduced, it was almost like a Mac Mini Pro. And I was hoping that they would continue that with this brand new Mac Mini. And on the face of it, it seems like they didn't, but once you dive in and actually start using it, they pretty much did. This thing is powerful. I can really only compare it to what I do and what I've done before on Intel Macs, and that is video editing, photo editing, so that means Final Cut Pro, Photoshop, Lightroom, and all of that runs flawlessly, as good if not better than my fully spec'd out 16-inch MacBook Pro. I have yet to have a single beach ball or have to wait for anything to load on this computer, which is kind of crazy. And I mean, there's really not that much more to say with the Mac Mini. It's fast, it's powerful, and Apple didn't lie to us. All of that starting at a really low price point. I mean, the Mac Mini is an excellent value. But this really gets me excited for the future of the Mac. I bought this Mac Mini kind of as a test to see how it would perform, but now that's getting me excited for the iMac or the Mac Pro or even the 16-inch MacBook Pro. Getting a more desktop class Apple chip is getting me very excited. And also the prospects of getting a dedicated GPU from Apple, again, getting me more excited. The Mac Mini and all of the computers with the M1 chip are impressive, and if you're in the market for a new laptop from Apple, I don't think you should really hesitate. It's really good. Okay, real quick before we continue, I want to thank this video's sponsor, Hostinger. If you're looking to build a website, or if you already have a website and you need to get it hosted, Hostinger is one of the best options to do that. Their servers are extremely fast and reliable, and most importantly, they offer a 99.9% uptime guarantee. So you know that your website will pretty much always be up and running and fast, available for anyone to see. And everything is extremely easy to use and get up and running. But if you ever do have any questions, they have 24/7, 365 days a year chat available so you can get your questions answered. Plus they offer free domains and SSL encryption. And if you're unhappy with anything, you have a 30-day money back guarantee. So if this is something you want to check out, and you definitely should, check out the link down in the description or just go to hostinger.com/MattG, enter code MattG, and get up to 91% off your yearly hosting plans. Also, if you're watching this before Black Friday, you can get up to 90% off, so even better deals. It's a great deal and a great service, so check it out. Okay, so for the rest of the system, it's not that different than what I used before, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So my keyboard is the Keychron K2. If you like mechanical keyboards and you have a Mac, I think this is definitely the first place you should look. It's a Mac dedicated keyboard, so it has all the keys, it is mapped correctly, and it feels great, sounds great. It does everything you want a mechanical keyboard to do, and it does it at a pretty affordable price. My mouse, on the other hand, has changed a tad. Not the mouse itself, it's still the Logitech MX Master 3. Again, I'll say it and I'll praise it. It is the best mouse out there for productivity. There's so many buttons that you can customize and change to do really anything that you need. It works from an app-to-app basis, or you can use it throughout your whole system. This mouse is great. I'm sure you have heard of it before, but if you were on the fence about whether or not you wanted to get one, well, I'm just gonna say do it. You're gonna love it. But I've also recently pulled out my Apple trackpad again. That's something I just had lying in a drawer because I switched over to a mouse quite a few years ago now. But I actually have it here in the shelf because now in certain tasks like Lightroom or Photoshop, I'll actually pull out the trackpad so I can get some finer touch adjustments. I don't use it all the time for every single task, but it's nice to have it at hand because it's definitely a different experience than what you get from a mouse. And then the mouse pad is from GroveMate as well. I love these felt looking mouse pads. It's just a nice clean mouse pad that gets out of the way. I also keep my Fuji X100T on hands at all times. Shout out to Patrick Tomaso for pretty much making me buy this. But this is a great little almost point and shoot camera that you can get excellent quality out of, and I've really been making it a focus to use more quote unquote real cameras instead of just shooting on my phone, and the experience is great. I'll probably talk about that a little bit more in a different video. Finally is old school. It's my notebook. I've recently again switched over to using just pen and paper. I tried for a long time to use my iPad with the Apple Pencil to write notes, and I still occasionally do that, but I've just found it so much easier, more tactile, and I just like it better to use just a regular old pen and paper. I use this for my shot list so I can easily cross them off as I'm going, and it's just easier for me. Sometimes it's easy to overcomplicate your life and you want to introduce tech into every angle. Sometimes you just don't need that. But that is pretty much everything with this setup. It's always fun to put things together and create something new, and when a new computer comes out, I always just get motivated to actually do that. And beyond that, the Mac Mini is getting me excited for the future of Apple computers, and I'm hoping that this is just the beginning, because there's a lot more that Apple could do, but this is a pretty good starting point.